Good afternoon. It is 2 o'clock, and I would like to call to order the March 11th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 25th meeting. Those minutes were in your packet. Are there any questions or comments the trustees have regarding the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? Here, 1 second here.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. Item 3 is the consent docket. There are 7 items on the consent docket, a little bit of everything, some consultant selections, some contract awards, some change orders, and I think even an easement on there. Are there any questions on the consent docket? Any items the trustees would like to pull for individual consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent docket?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. We have no items under the concurrence docket. We have no items under the emergency construction contracts today. We do have an item under the items for individual consideration. We have a presentation regarding Overholser Dam, and I believe we have a representative from Freese and Nichols here this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director Browning, trustees. I was requested to come today to kind of give an update on the project and to talk about, kind of lead into your resolution that's before you today about the BRIC grant. So if you all remember, the last time I was here is probably over a year ago. We were in part of this phase of the study of the project. So all the components that you see that have green check marks, we're already past all these phases, and we're into design and funding in the construction phase. So this board here, this also doubles as one of the boards we plan to use for public meetings should you go forward with the BRIC grant process. And this really right here is kind of public language that they can understand that the dam doesn't meet current criteria, the concrete spillway doesn't meet stability criteria, the floodgates are in operation, are not operable and need to be replaced. Most of them have extensive coating loss, corrosion, and metal loss. And then some other ancillary architectural and structural features need to be replaced just because it's old antiquated concrete and it's just weathered. And then we'll talk about the previous stability issues that kind of come up again for this project that were done in 2004. So why is modernization important? Modernization of the dam, it's just basically to comply with current federal and state guidelines. State rules, federal guidelines. Why is maintenance important? Just like any infrastructure project, to keep the components functioning or operating as intended. Just a brief overview of the structure itself. Overholser Dam consists of about a 3-mile short in terms of height, but long dam, earthen dam, going around Overholser Drive, north along the North Canadian River. But the kind of the business end of the dam itself is this concrete spillway that's 1,200 feet long that spans across the front of the reservoir and the North Canadian River and the gatehouse. So kind of from left to right on this photo here, we have a gated section. These are radial floodgates that were installed in 1923 after the dam, or 24 after the dam breached in 1923. We call this the new section of the dam, even though it's over 100 years old. Then we have kind of a transition section that's not designed for overflow, and it just connects the old portion of the dam to the new. And that also has floodgates, gates 10 through 13, 14 through 17, and 18 through 24. Gate number 1, just after they installed this section, was taken out of service and replaced with a concrete bulkhead, so it does not have an active floodgate on it right now. In the middle is an overflow section. It's just an overflow crest, it's uncontrolled, and that's kind of acts as the emergency spillway, if you will. And then on the far right side, you have the gatehouse that controls flow from the North Canadian River downstream. So what are we doing here with this project? What are the rehabilitation components? We are going to permanently remove all the floodgates, make it non-operational, make them maintenance-free, basically a maintenance-free spillway by replacing them with fixed weir labyrinth spillways, spillway weirs. And I have some pictures here in a minute that gives a bigger picture of that. We're going to increase the stability of the structure by adding concrete ballast, similar to what was done in the 2004 project in the overflow spillway. This section right here. I think I have a picture in this presentation of kind of what they did here. We're going to do the same concept to the rest of the structure. We have to actually raise a portion of Overholzer Drive west of the spillway because it's not even as high as the top of the spillway, so it needs to be raised just to come into compliance with current hydraulic criteria to keep it from overtopping during the design flood event. And then along with all that work, we're going to go ahead and repair deteriorated concrete, spalls, cracks, things like that.
Has Overholser Drive ever been inundated in the past?
No. So this was that project in 2004 in that center spillway, the center overflow spillway. So it's a hollow structure inside there. And so what they did was they cut out square sections. They backed up concrete trucks here. They put in bobcats to muck out the silt that had been collected over time. And then they filled these up with concrete. And that just weights the structure down and gives it more mass, makes it more stable. So we're going to do the same concept in all these open sections to the left and right here. Okay? So this is a 3D rendering of what it's going to look like when it gets all done. I think our graphics people took a little bit of liberty with the watercolor, but get the idea. I wish it were that blue all the time.
That didn't need
right?
to be said.
So where there are currently radial floodgates, those will all be permanently removed, and they'll be replaced by these V-shaped notch, these are called labyrinth, weir cycles. So water will rise to the level of the top of those cycles and then just flow over the top. And the feature that makes this efficient is that V shape. If you could think about kind of like an accordion, if you take that accordion and stretch it out, it's a straight line, but it's a lot more efficient. You got a lot more surface area if you can crunch that down or shrink that down to a smaller footprint. So that's what these labyrinth cycles allow us to do. We take a gate bay that's maybe 30 feet wide, but it's like 90 feet worth of flow. I'm kind of rounding the math, but it's about like that 3-to-1 ratio that we're getting in each of those bays where there currently exist gates. To keep the architectural look, we're going to keep all the old antiquated gate hoists on top, on the deck. So those will remain for architectural features. And then on these hollow sections that are open, we don't have the luxury of having a slab in front, so we actually are going to have to form up the concrete in lifts as they come up, but we're going to leave it essentially a vertical face. So that'll be concrete all the way out to almost to the front of those piers. And then this section's hollow underneath. So this will have the same treatment that we did, or that was done here in 2004. We'll do over here where we'll cut holes in the slab, fill it with concrete, put the slabs back in place. Same thing over in the gatehouse structure. That's hollow underneath as well, so we're going to increase the stability over there. Just another view of the same feature. So you can see the concrete face. What we're going to try to do is recess that concrete just a little bit from the front of those buttresses to keep that look that it has now. So we're going to try to attempt to do. Same thing, just from a different viewpoint. Nighttime view. Okay. So the BRIC grant, Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities, this was a program that was under FEMA during the first Trump administration. It's still ongoing. And it's a very competitive national grant for FEMA. The estimated cost of this project that we've estimated at this point is $56.5 million. It's a 75-25 federal local match, so the portion that would come to the city, if it's successful, would be $42,375. The application is in process right now. We're working on it right now. The process is that OEM, should you go forward, OEM would review it, give us kind of their blessing, give us their suggestions to upload it to the FEMA's FEMA site, and I think currently right now it's due April 18th, although a new NOFO is going to be coming out, I believe, at the end of next week. If you have any more detailed questions about the grant process itself, Jennifer Wassinger from my firm is here today, and she can answer those questions if you have any specific questions about the grant.
Thank you. Trustees, have any questions? So let's go back to Overholser Drive for a minute.
Yes.
If it's never ever overflowed, been inundated in the past,
Correct.
there's a decreasing yield of water coming down the North Canadian River. Even if it was inundated for a few hours a day or so, it could be easily barricaded off. And I would ask that we look at that to see if that's really a necessary part of the project that needs to be done.
Yeah, unfortunately it is, because the low point of the dam is just west of the spillway on Overholser Drive. And so in order to meet the state criteria, you have to design to the elevation of the 75% PMF with freeboard. Now, we're going to get a waiver on the freeboard, but we at least have to meet the 75% PMF elevation, which is above the current level of the road. So what would happen if that event came? I mean, we're talking a huge event. It's 5,000 or 10,000 year event, but those are the rules. And they're the same for federal as they are for state. I mean, they have similar rules and federal agencies have to comply with on their dams. But the water would go over Overholser Drive west of the spillway and potentially cause a breach and cause the dam to fail around that side, just like it did in 1923, where the spillway used to end. So we're kind of hamstrung just by the criteria.
I need to think about that for a minute. I'm not sure I'm totally buying into that, but I understand the federal and state requirements. I'm not sure that the dam would breach. Secondly, on the things that you're doing on the south side of the dam to even it up, and I don't know how much that costs, but I think it could be argued that the historical nature of the Overholser Dam is based upon how it was built in 24, and we wouldn't want to change that or spend more money on just aesthetic things that may or may not make a difference. So I would ask you to look at that as you go forward.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? We have a resolution on the docket. Are there any questions regarding the resolution? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. Any items from trustees this afternoon? Seeing none, general manager reports. Mr. Browning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Might help if I flip this thing on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. First, the lake levels are doing great. Hefner is generally full. It's an inch or so above full pool. Draper has risen to 2.4 feet below full pool. Canton is a little more than a half a foot above full pool, so it's recovered nicely. Atoka is a foot above, and McGee Creek is 1.6 feet above, and they're probably going to get some more rain this week, so they're in good shape as well. Wanted to give you all a heads up. I gave you a package before the meeting. So there's a bill, Senate Bill 3, that would prohibit the application of biosolids onto lands in Oklahoma. Now, a high percentage of the wastewater treatment facilities use land application for biosolids final disposal. This bill would cause a near immediate ban on that type of final disposal. So we put together a white paper regarding the EPA and DEQ position on the beneficial reuse of biosolids. One of the biggest concerns is PFAS in our wastewater sludge. The EPA has completed a health assessment, but they have no published plans on when they're going to initiate the actual evaluation to determine the maximum levels for PFAS in wastewater sludges. So we believe that the ban is a bit premature. We've been monitoring the levels of PFAS in our wastewater sludge, and at the sites, we have about 11,000 acres that we land apply. And the levels are in parts per billion, whereas in water, the maximum contaminant level that is regulated by EPA is 4 parts per trillion. But you have to consider that 4 parts per trillion is direct consumption of the water, whereas with the wastewater sludges on land application, it goes from the sludge to the ground, to the roots, to the plant, to the animal, to the human. And so the EPA, through theoretical analysis, has determined that there's a very slight chance that that could contribute to any health concerns for humans. So I just wanted you to know, I've met with Senator Green a couple of times, other members of the state legislature, and I'll be meeting with another representative tomorrow and DEQ on Thursday to discuss the issue.
Does DEQ have a position?
I don't know.
George of the House, would that be John George?
Yes.
There are a lot of rural folks that like the sludge, and I assume there'd be some tension between rural people opposed to the sludge and rural people for the sludge, and some tension between rural legislatures.
Yes, there is.
Has OML taken a position on this?
Well, I don't know yet. I'll find out Wednesday,
Okay.
tomorrow. But the fact is, I told him, I said, look, you know, we have a transition plan. For a very large utility to continue to land apply indefinitely it's just not sustainable. So I suggested that, you know, modify the bill to give us 5 years so that we could modify Deer Creek, which we are doing, to change our dewatering process. That would also include Chisholm Creek. Right now, the only alternative is land application, but we produce almost 400 tons a day. So land application is question, or
Landfilling, I think is what you
filling
meant, yeah.
is questionable, particularly in the wet seasons. Folks think, well, if you can if you can't landfill, then you can't land apply. Well, we can. We can only take a finite amount to the landfills, where we could use our land application sites to actually catch up on those days that we can't
Right.
apply. So there is a benefit to be able to land apply. So with that, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on what's going on and what our plan is going forward. And we'll continue to educate and hopefully work out a different agreement with the legislature this year, rather than immediate prohibition of land application of the biosolids.
Have you done a cost of an analysis long-term on the difference between land application and landfilling?
Just hauling to the landfill is about $6 million a year. But there would be a reduction from our solids handling group through Inframark, because they wouldn't have to apply, but they still have to haul. So there would be some adjustment there, but I don't know exactly what that'll be yet. But we're continuing to negotiate, continuing to evaluate options, but we're at the point now where I just felt that I really needed to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on there.
So I assume that there's, Oklahoma is not the only state that's looking at this. So I assume that there are, you know, they're looking at Texas and Iowa and you know, Michigan and Kansas are all looking at it too.
Well, there have been a number of states who have banned it, but then you have to look at the conditions. So what level of PFAS do they have? and what's, what are their alternatives and what makes sense. And so I don't know that a total immediate ban makes the best sense in Oklahoma, but we'll see where it goes.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Browning on this issue?
Did you say there's another piece of legislation that was out there that was a House bill?
There is a House bill, but it did not make it out of committee. The House bill was a little different than this. It required signage and other things. Excuse me. But it's not moving forward this year.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anything else?
Well, yes. I would be remiss if I didn't recognize Laura Johnson. This is her last week of service with Oklahoma City after 45 years. And she is also the surrogate trustee for our city manager as a surrogate trustee. So, Laura, thank you for your service, and we will miss you. And then finally, kudos to staff. Great job again. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Citizens to be heard. We have Andrew Fleet with us this morning. Welcome, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. My name is Andrew Fleet, and I'm honored to be the water conservation educator for Oklahoma County through OSU Extension. As we gather here, we all share a common concern: the future of Oklahoma's water resources. Water is the foundation of our communities, our economy, and our environment. With Oklahoma's growing population, shifting climate patterns, increased water demands, the need for proactive water conservation has never been greater. In my role at OSU Extension, I work directly with homeowners, businesses, farmers, and municipalities to promote smart, research-based conservation strategies. My focus is education and outreach through actionable solutions, including reducing wastewater in landscapes, homes, and businesses, improved irrigation efficiency, implementing stormwater best management practices, and protecting groundwater and surface water from overuse and contamination. At the Oklahoma County OSU Extension, I see firsthand how water-efficient practices can lead to healthier crops, lower utility bills, and more resilient urban landscapes. Through hands-on demonstrations and educational workshops, we empower residents to become stewards in their own backyards. But water conservation is a team effort. As leaders of municipal water management, your work is essential to ensuring that Oklahoma City remains water secure for future generations. I look forward to collaborating with you on public education initiatives, sustainable irrigation projects, and policy discussions that help drive meaningful change in this city. By working together, municipal leaders, educators, businesses, and residents, we can create a culture of conservation not only that preserves our water, but also strengthens our city's resilience against drought and water shortages. Again, I appreciate this opportunity to introduce myself to the Trust Board and be part of Oklahoma City's ongoing efforts to protect and conserve our water. Thank you.
Andrew, are you aware of the utilities department's water conservation programs that we have in place at this time?
With Squeeze Every Drop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've worked a bit with Kelsey.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. There's no other business before the trust. Therefore, we are adjourned.